there's nothing for it to stick to, because thoughts are like vata. Thoughts in Ayurvedic medicine of the ancient India 10,000 years ago, thoughts are vata, they're air. They don't stick to anything. Now, if you ground your body first, and then you have this insight that every time I go into a grocery store and I see a mother yelling at her child, I freak out. Then you're forewarned is forearmed. Then you know that that's one of your triggers. And that's something that you can work on and even practice in your mind, finding that alarm in your body and finding that younger version of you and being able to calm that younger version of you. Now, I'll wind it up here quickly. And it's like, sometimes I want to have a seizure as a medical doctor when I talk about inner child, this sort of a feeling in the body, all this kind of stuff, because I can talk about the basal ganglia, the bed nucleus of the striatum terminalis, and all these sort of neurological structures that underpin anxiety. But it really comes down to the fact that anxiety is more of a spiritual issue than a medical one. And we're not going to be able to heal a spiritual issue with a medical intervention. Now, medical interventions can help. They can put you in the arena to be able to heal. But what I find with a lot of people that I put on antidepressants is once they're feeling better on antidepressants, they feel no desire whatsoever to go back and actually unearth the original wound.
Yeah. Ugh, there's so much to
See, I
get
can
into.
talk forever. I told you, you got to slow me down here.
No, I love it. I mean, you're talking about kind of this somatic experiencing that none of us are ever taught.
Hmm.
We're told as, young girls to be nice and be polite, and as young boys, like, don't cry, be tough. And so we're very early on, just general, obviously this is a generalization, but we are, and then we're modeled what our parents got, which not necessarily healthy or conscious because from the depression and all these other things.
True.
And so, here we are, everybody listening, kudos to you. We're trying to break the cycles. But it really is feeling to heal. We have to remember how to feel again. And what your work is teaching us how to drop in. And I love this idea of like just becoming aware of the sensation without explanation. And that's what I was just recently, after all this healing work I've done for, decades, just started getting into somatic
Mm.
experiencing. I'm just learning how to feel and be. So is that like, you say you've done a lot of healing of this anxiety, like for these wounds, for these kind of blocked, emotions, suppressed emotions that we haven't dealt with, or these parts of us that have been neglected. Is it just a matter of continuing to practice that conscious awareness and that somatic experiencing and that sensation without explanation? Does that do it on its own? Like, does your nervous system rewire with that attention? And
Yeah.
what else do we need?
It sets the stage. I think we heal in community. I really think that men's groups are going to be so important going forward as far as being able to metabolize a lot of this stuff for men. Women are much more open in general about talking. And I think they're much more amenable to one-on-one therapy than men are. That's a generalization, of course. But there are old traumas. Like I have this acronym called ALARM, which is abuse, loss, abandonment, rejection, and maturing too early and shame. So those things all create alarm in our body. And when we can see that those alarms are what's creating, they never got processed. That's what's creating the anxious, worried thoughts of our mind. We can start bringing them up. Now, sometimes they're just too intense. If you have physical, emotional, sexual abuse, it's very difficult for you to sort of process that on your own. Now, understanding that you can do it through a somatic focus, I think, is helpful. And somatic focus, I think, are helpful. They're not the be all and end all. I'm qualified as an SEP. I think that it has some great components to it. It also has some pitfalls. Just dealing completely with somatics. But I think that's the way that we have to start opening up, because the cognitive part of us can only heal so much. And like I said, thoughts are air. So it's really getting into the somatic part of it. And the somatic part for me, when you can isolate this alarm in your system, that is a conduit to the younger wounded part of you that goes into an age regression. So you're actually dealing with the issue at its source. But I do also recommend having friends, having people that you can talk to about this. It's not something that you just sort of sit there and go, "Oh, I'm just going to feel it to heal it and stay with it, and it's going to just metabolize and move through me." Um, I think we need some help. We need another person, a nervous system to ping off of, because when we go into these situations, our nervous system becomes quite dysregulated. So it's asking someone with a dysregulated nervous system, usually from old trauma, to regulate themselves. Now, you can understand this and you can do this in sort of a fairly superficial way. But as far as deeper resonant healing, I think we need other people. We need a group. We need something to reflect this back to us,
Yes.
because it's so intense that we don't want to touch it. And it's really creating that safety, because so much of therapy is dealing with the issue. And it's really not the issue. The issue is the symptom. The underlying cause is the state of alarm that's in your system from your youth. So if you can create a sense of safety in your body, even if you have the alarm and the safety, sometimes what I'll do with people is say, when they're going through, I remember when my dog died. And I'll say, okay, let's go into that feeling. It's like, where do you feel it? I feel it in my heart. It feels heavy. It feels like a pressure. It feels hot. It feels red, murky, hollow. It's like, okay, what was the best time in your life? Oh, it's, when I went camping when I was 21. I just finished university and school, and I went camping with all my friends, and we just had such a great time. Okay, let's tap into that feeling. Where do you feel that? Oh, that's kind of in my shoulders and across my back. It's very light. It's like, okay, well, let's do a recipe here. Let's mix that feeling of, the pain, and then let's mix it in with that pleasure and go back and forth. And that shows your unconscious mind, hey, this isn't all of me. When it was happening, when you were going through your trauma, it did feel like all of you, because you were a child. You didn't have a whole lot of agency in that situation. You were powerless. And part of the age regression part of it is we feel powerless again today. But what I try and teach people is, you may feel the exact same way you did as an 8-year-old, but you're not an 8-year-old. You're an adult now. So you have a lot more agency in your own healing. So it's a matter of finding this alarm in your system, learning how to process it. And there's different ways you can process it, but learning how to process it and seeing that that's the cause of your problem, and stop endlessly looking for, I didn't get enough love from my high school boyfriend, and that's why I'm like this. That's not it. That's not it. What you say is not it. And that's part of the problem, is because human beings are much better at describing things than they are emotions. So they will preferentially go to things than emotions, which makes it really hard, because we really have to describe the emotion and the feeling of it in order to start changing it, even just a little bit. Because if we escape into our heads with worry, what I call the three W's of worry: warnings, what ifs, worst case scenarios. If we escape into our minds every time we feel this alarm in our body, and it's background alarm, we may not even know it's there. If we escape into our minds, we never actually deal with it, which is the splinter. So we have to actually go for the splinter, rather than just trying to put fancier Band-Aids, fancier talk therapy on top of it. I'm not against talk therapy. I just think that it has its limitations. It's not going to heal you, but it'll help you cope.